All right, I'm Brad Clark,
I'm Chris Buzzelli.
and we are wellness coordinators with TriHealth Corporate Health. Today we are going to go over the third of your video series and cover a pool day workout. So welcome to the fun. So the first exercise that we're going to cover today is going to be the deadlift. This is going to be 4 sets by 5 reps. This is your heavy move. Justin, why don't you come over here? I'm going to move you around a little bit for this one. So Chris is starting, as we can see, with his feet underneath the bar. So as you start with the deadlift, you want the feet to be about hip width apart. You can go a little bit wider. That may cause you trouble later, that we'll talk about here in a second. But I usually recommend hip width apart or even a little more narrow if you want. But the bar is sitting over top of the feet. So if we were in Chris's head looking straight down, we'd be able to see about this much of his foot on this side of the bar. So a lot of mistakes that people make are either setting up too far away from the bar or sitting up crooked to the bar. Make sure it's nice and balanced and it's right over kind of the midline of the foot. As for weight with the deadlift, if you either are not starting with 45-pound plates or you do not have access to Olympic-sized weights regardless of how much they actually weigh, what I recommend is starting with the bar on some kind of a riser like you'll see in the steppers in a step aerobics class, just because we don't want to be taking just the bar from the floor, and obviously we want room for our feet to go underneath the bar. So the Olympic-sized plates work really well to get the bar up off the floor a little bit. But if you don't have those or have access to those, using something else to make sure that it's got a little bit of distance from the floor is a good idea as well. So, as Chris goes to grab the bar, as far as the hand position, what he's going to do is he's going to look to grab the bar at about shoulder width apart. If he goes any wider, he's going to have to come lower to the ground to get it. And if he goes any more narrow than that, the hands can run into the legs as he goes through the deadlift move. So what he'll do is go ahead and lower himself to the ground and grab onto the bar so that his arms are pretty much going to be perpendicular to the floor and straight on from a forward view. Now what you'll notice, a big mistake that a lot of people make with the deadlift is they go to pick up the bar in like a squat form. Go ahead and show us that, Chris. We don't want to do that. Right, because the bar is then going to have to work around the knees as we come up, and this position isn't super great for our back. So go ahead and take it to the floor and now just reset like you would normally. So now what we can see is that Chris's upper back is almost parallel to the floor. That's good. And his knees are a little bit straighter than they would be with the depth of the squat. This is what we want because the pull of the deadlift is meant to be a back exercise. We're going to have a little bit of work in our posterior chain. Our posterior chain includes things like the glutes and the hamstrings, but by and large, this is going to be a back move. So before Chris pulls up, one thing he's going to do is he's going to tighten his lats, these muscles on the side, by pulling his shoulder blades together, just like we would do on the bench during the bench press at the bottom. From here, all Chris is going to do is raise from the hips and the knees at the same time and pull the bar straight up. Go ahead, Chris. Do a couple for us. One more and hold it at the top. Now, when he gets to the top, one of the things that you're going to want to do, make sure you get a nice pull back here in the back, and make sure you get a nice shrug in the shoulders. Go ahead and do one that's not right at the top. What we don't want is one where it's like a half rep where he's basically bent over and he's not getting, we don't want to get to here and call this the end. We want to get nice tension back here in the back all the way through. And then go ahead and lower it back down. Cool. So again, that's the deadlift. We're going to do 4 sets by 5 reps. You're going to take that 2 to 3 minute rest period in between. Again, work heavy weight. Don't worry about failing this one. If you don't get the rep, just let the weight drop back to the ground. We'll move on to the next exercise. All right, the next exercise we're gonna do is the bent over row. This is a good move for the lats and pretty much everything in general in the back. We're gonna start with the bar at about hip height on the rack. Same rules apply as far as grip goes that did with the deadlift. So Chris is gonna go ahead and stand up next to the bar. He's going to grab the bar at about shoulder width position. He's gonna take it off the rack and he's gonna take a couple of steps back. Now, Chris is grabbing the bar right now with an overhand grip. You can do this move in two ways. You can also do an underhand grip if you would like. That's going to accentuate the biceps a little bit more portion of this move. If you want to do strictly more of a back move, you can do it with the overhand grip. So what Chris is going to do here is slightly bend the knees and he's going to drop his hips back. The goal here is to set an angle of the hips so that Chris's upper body is getting close to parallel to the floor. Now, it doesn't have to be exactly parallel to the floor. It can be, but this angle here is fine. Now, all Chris is gonna do is pull the bar up until it hits straight up above him on his midsection. Go ahead and do a couple, Chris. Hold it at the top. Now, at the top, as we can see, he's got that good squeeze again in his shoulder blades, nice and tight. And then go ahead and relax it down. And then a good stretch. Now when Chris is done, he can stand straight up and then just walk forward and put it back in the rack. A couple of things to note with this move, and this will be important as we go forward because we're going to do another pull exercise. When we're doing anything that is a pull like this, think about pulling from the elbows. One issue that people can get into is they want to pull from the hands, and all they end up doing is a really bad bicep curl. Why don't you go ahead and grab the bar for me again, Chris? Now I'll have Chris demonstrate what it looks like when you pull from the hands. You don't get the elbows traveling far enough back behind your back, so they end up stopping like right there. And we're not really engaging what we want to engage in the big muscles. We end up just doing a bicep curl. Go ahead and do it from the elbows again. Now he's going to drive his elbows back and he's going to see how much farther those elbows come past his upper body, and he gets a nice good squeeze there. That's going to apply for any exercise that we do that is any kind of a pulling exercise. So go ahead and rack it up for me. Okay, so that's the bent over row. This exercise is a 3x8 sets 2 reps exercise. You're only taking about 60 to 90 seconds of rest in between these sets. This is not as heavy weight as the deadlift is, so we don't need that long rest period. Make sure that you're getting a good burn and that you're feeling it in the back. So that's bent over row. We're going to move on to the next exercise. The next exercise we're going to go over here is the lat pull down. This is a 3 sets by 10 reps exercise. Chris is going to demonstrate it for us. The first place that I want to start with on this exercise is that one mistake a lot of people make is they just go ahead and sit down and they try to reach up for the bar. Why don't you go ahead and show us how it's done? Chris is going to go ahead and find the bar first, and then he's going to sit down. Now make sure that the legs are tucked up under whatever kind of pad system that your weight machine has, nice and tight. One thing I do want to go over also is hand position on the bar. As we go more narrow, which Chris can do if he would like to, it's going to be a little bit more of a bicep exercise. The reason for that is because it's going to allow more flexion in our elbow. So the bicep is going to have to do more work to pull the bar down farther. If Chris wants to go a little bit wider, it's going to be a little bit more of a back exercise. What I recommend is that you try to go a little bit wider, at least shoulder width, if not farther. If we want to do bicep exercises, we can do bicep curls. Don't turn a back exercise into a bicep workout. We just don't want to do that. So Chris is going to go ahead and start the move. He's going to go ahead and pull down. Again, like we talked about with the bent over row, he's pulling from the elbows, not from the hands. He's going to get a good squeeze back here of his shoulder blades at the bottom, and he's going to return to the top. What you want to feel when you get to the top of this exercise is a little bit of a stretch back here in your lats, and then bringing it back down. We're looking to touch the chest at the very bottom. and work through a full range of motion. Good, you can go ahead and take it back up, Chris. And there's multiple grips that you can use for this. Don't feel like you have to use the bar. If you do want to do a little bit of a closer grip, you'll usually find little V grips like this laying around. You're welcome to use this. Again, it's going to be a little bit more of a bicep move with a V grip because your hands are so close. It's going to require more elbow flexion, but you can use it. Feel free to play around with any of the bars that may be available to you at your gym of choice. And again, just like the bent over row, you can also go with an underhand grip as well, whichever one that you choose. So that is the lat pull down, and we'll move on to our last exercise of the day. All right, last exercise we're going to go over today is the rear delt extension. This might possibly be the most important exercise that we're going to go over today. This is a really important move for anybody who is out there in a desk for a good portion of the day, who has some back problems. Chris is going to demonstrate this with dumbbells, but you can do it a multitude of different ways, which we'll go over as he's getting underway here. So if you want to go ahead and grab the dumbbells, Chris. What he's going to do is he's going to put a slight bend in his knees and in his hips, and he's going to work to get his upper body parallel to the floor. And then all he's going to do is with straight arms extend outward and up. Where you want to feel this is going to be on the back side of these shoulders. Now, if Chris wanted to do this with a resistance band, he would be able to do that as well. He could do it from a standing position, just holding the resistance band and pulling it across his chest in this same position. But you're going to do about 15 of these, 3 sets of 15, and then relax. Rest periods for this exercise are very short. They're only about 30 seconds before you start again. And again, this is a very important move because so much of what we do during the day causes our shoulders to go this way, whether it's typing on a computer or driving a car. So exercises like this help to pull those shoulders back and get us out of this position where, again, we have a little bit of immobility, but also strength and balance. We've talked about it before in some of these other videos. Strength and balance is the biggest way that you're going to get hurt. So this helps balance that out. And as I said, we can do it a multitude of different ways. You're going 3 sets of 15 reps again. Feel free to use a resistance band if you'd like to. You can use a cable machine. Anything that has you moving with the arms outward this way against resistance will work. So there you have it. That is your pull day exercise video. And we thank you for joining us.
Thank you.